Hello, ninth grade students. I hope that you are all doing well, that you are remaining safe, and that you and your family have had an opportunity to enjoy spending more time with each other at the very least. Today, we're going to cover a few different things, and I recognize that, again, we're still not meeting in person, but we are finding a way to move forward. And we're going to kind of keep that positive energy up. At least I'm going to try to bring it for you all today. We're going to be covering two different topics. So I recommend that if you have a pen and paper on hand or the note section of your cell phone, that you pull that up because the information I'm going to give you will likely be very important for the later activities that I have planned. I mean, you can always come back to this video. It's going to be posted, but if you don't want to have too many different screens open, you might want to take down some notes. All right. So today we are going to cover the verb to be. I'm sure that many of you have already done this, like, oh, Teacher Latoyia, this is just baby stuff. And I definitely understand. However, I think it's really important that we have a refresher of subjects like these grammar lessons so that way we can kind of keep up on them, especially since we don't have that one-on-one instruction time to talk about our writing, how to make it better. So this is one way that I want to support you all in making sure you become better writers, better readers, and better critical thinkers. We're also going to be talking about independent and dependent clauses. And I think that we may have touched on this a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. But if we have, that's great because this is going to be a review. And if we haven't, it means that this might be brand new information to you. I'm also going to give you a quick overview of how you connect those independent and dependent clauses. And we'll talk about what those mean a little bit later. So let's start with the verb to be. When you are creating sentences, whether speaking or writing, it's really important that your subject and your verb agree. They need to agree in number and they need to agree in tense. Today, we're going to talk about the to be verb and their number and their tense. People make the mistake commonly, especially when speaking, with using the wrong to be verb. So I hear a lot of folks talking and they say I be or you be or we be. And that's perfectly fine when you're talking to your friends. But if you want to formalize that language a little bit, maybe you're talking to an interviewer, or maybe you are applying to a college later on down the line, and you are talking to someone from the admissions team, you definitely want to tighten up on your formal language. So I be, you be, and we be may not necessarily fit into that conversation. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. I use it sometimes too. But if you're talking formally to someone, you want to tighten up that language there. When you are doing that, one way is to really be mindful that whether or not your subject and your verb are singular or plural. And we'll get into some examples of this when we talk about the to be verb. So this verb is a little tricky. If any of you have taken a second language, second, third, fourth language like Spanish, you know that verbs change based on whether or not they are masculine or feminine, and based on whether or not there are one or more. The to be verb follows that as well. So as you can see on the screen, there's a present tense of to be. And again, this is a very general overview. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, just want to give you a general overview. The present tense of to be. So you have the singular side, which is on the left side of the screen. And then you have the plural side, which is on the right side of the screen. And this is present tense. So we have present tense, singular, and plural. So if I wanted to use the to be verb in the singular for the present tense, I could say I am, I can say you are, or I can say he, she, it is, as in right now, okay? Now let's say there's more than one person. So we transition over to that plural side. It would be we are right now, you are, still pretty much the same, and they are. Not they be, not we be, not you be. Not in the formal sense anyway. you want to be very careful here because when you start to add on to your sentences, sometimes you'll notice that some things just kind of sound funny, and they're going to sound funny for a little while until you get the hang of it. It's going to be a little clumsy. It's going to be a little awkward, but that's perfectly fine. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. So when we're talking about the past tense, meaning it happened after, a long time ago, yesterday, an hour ago, 2 seconds ago, that's past tense, right? It's not happening right now. Again, you have the singular on your left and you have the plural on your right as it pertains to the screen. So I was is the past tense of the to be verb. So I was sleeping last night. It's past tense. I'm not sleeping right now, but I was last night. Maybe you were on your phone yesterday afternoon talking to your best friend. Past tense. He, she, it was. Pretty, I guess, self-explanatory there. When we transition into the plural side, meaning more than one, you and I were going to the movies, or I don't know, we were going to go to the mall, something like that. You were, again, the you form really stays consistent here, which is great because you don't have to remember too much, but it does change for others. And they were. So they were playing a video game last night. Past tense, there was more than one person. The to be form of the to be verb here is were. So they were playing a video game last night. Right. So that covers a really brief overview of the to be verb. I know I went really quickly, but I'm hoping that a lot of that information was kind of a review and not so much your first time seeing it. I'm sure you've had your papers graded and marked where you had to kind of change around some of those verbs. If you haven't, you can always drop me an email. I know you all know my email address, and I will try to include it in the comments so you guys can message me if you have additional questions. But for now, we are going to transition into independent and dependent clauses. And it sounds really scary, but I think once we start to talk about the material, you'll see, oh, this is stuff I already know. At least I hope. So an independent clause, basically, long and short of it, is just a complete sentence. It tells you the who and it tells you the what. It expresses a complete thought. So any sentence that expresses any string of words, let me not call it a sentence, any string of words that expresses a complete thought is a sentence. And a sentence is an independent clause because it expresses a complete thought. Gives you the subject, gives you the verb, tells you the who, tells you the what. Now, a dependent clause is a group of words that has a subject and a verb, but it doesn't really express a complete thought. It may be missing something. You may go, I'm not really quite sure what the what is here, or it may be really fuzzy. It may sound like a complete sentence when you say it aloud, but in conversation, if you were talking to someone, they may ask you a follow-up to figure out what exactly is happening. The great news is dependent clauses have these words that really highlight them as being dependent clauses. It's kind of like a red alert that you'll see when a clause is dependent because it's trying to kind of alert you that something's not quite right here. So let's talk about those marker words that highlight that a dependent clause is present. So after, whether, while, whatever, since, though, unless, there's a whole list on the screen. If you see any of these words within a sentence, you just want to be a little bit mindful that a dependent clause might be lurking or hiding as a complete thought. It's not really a complete thought. It's in disguise, if you will. It's disguising itself as a complete thought, but these words are a dead giveaway that they're not. So be very careful. Not always, but sometimes, just as a way for you to kind of figure out whether or not it's actually there. So let's talk about how we connect dependent and independent clauses, because at some point you need to make it a complete sentence, right? You can't just have dependent clauses out there all willy-nilly, because you're going to be missing vital information. So there are ways that you can connect independent and dependent clauses. So you can connect them using coordinating conjunctions. We know what conjunctions are, right? And if not, there's a recap on your screen. And, but, nor, yet, those are coordinating conjunctions. But there are some things you want to keep in mind if you are going to try to use a coordinating conjunction to connect your independent and dependent clauses. So I'm actually going to read directly from the screen here, because I want to choose my language very carefully. I think that the way it is written is the way to best describe how to do that. So if the second independent clause begins with a coordinating conjunction, you should place a comma before the conjunction. That's just to separate it, okay? For example, teacher Latoyia read in the coffee shop, comma, but it was hard to concentrate because of the noise, right? So teacher Latoyia read in the coffee shop. That is an independent clause. It's a complete thought. I'm the subject, teacher Latoyia. What did I do? I read in the coffee shop. I could put a period at the end of that and it would be a complete thought. If we go to the second half of this sentence where it starts, but it was hard to concentrate because of the noise, right? That's also an independent clause. It was hard to concentrate because of the noise. There's an implied you here, all right? That could stand alone. But I want to connect these two independent clauses. So I use a coordinating conjunction to do so, and a comma, all right? So the comma serves as like I could be a period, but I'm not. I'm just going to continue on with this sentence, right? There are some independent marker words you can kind of pay attention to kind of alert you as to whether or not there are independent clauses present. And this is used at the beginning of an independent clause, just like you would notice for a dependent clause. And these words can always begin a sentence that can stand on its own. So again, it's a complete thought. If you put a period at the end of it, it's a complete thought. It expresses the who and the what, all right? Those marker words could include consequently. They could include however. They could include therefore, right? Those would be at the beginning of an independent clause, possibly. Not always, sometimes. So if you have a second independent clause that begins with an independent marker word, you can use a semicolon before the independent marker word. I know that sounds really confusing, so I'll say it again. If you have two independent clauses and you are trying to connect them together, meaning instead of having two standalone sentences, you want to connect them together. You want to merge them together to make one long sentence. And the second independent clause begins with one of those marker words we talked about. Use a semicolon before that marker word. Here's an example. Teacher Latoyia read in the coffee shop, independent clause, semicolon, however is the independent marker word. It was hard to concentrate because of the noise. Boom, right? So here we got a little bit of highlighting which words are important to remember, highlighting the punctuation that is important to remember. But I think, again, the more you practice utilizing the skill, the easier it will get. You won't always be perfect. Writing is not about being perfect. It is about practice. Practice makes for progress. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progress. So I highlighted some ways you can understand the to be verb. And we talked about independent and dependent clauses. I didn't really go into too much of the dependent clauses because you know, if you ask yourself who or what is the sentence about and what is the subject doing, if you can't answer that, it's a dependent clause. So I want to make sure that we practice identifying dependent and independent clauses. So I did create a Kahoot. Hopefully you were able to do the previous Kahoot on the chapters that we read and that it was easy. I'll be checking back and forth throughout the week to see who's completed it. So your second lesson has a second set of practice items for you to do. I'll include the Kahoot somewhere in the video, maybe in the comment section. So you should be able to either click on that link and take you directly there or copy and paste it into your tab. The other thing I would like for you to do is to independently listen or read the next 4 chapters of Seedfolks. I don't have a physical copy, obviously, to give you right now. However, I will be linking somewhere around this video the chapters that I'd like you to read, and they will be YouTube clips of a stranger, not me, reading those chapters to you, but they will show you the actual text. So if you're a person who likes to read on your own, you can just mute that video and read the pages yourself and kind of go through it that way. It's a little bit tougher, so I'm not giving you any comprehension questions for now. The next lesson, we will wrap up Seedfolks. That's the goal. As always, if you have any additional questions for me, you know how to contact me, or you can reach out to Teacher Amy or Mr. Joe for assistance with getting in touch with me. But hopefully, if you have questions, you'll first go back to the video, make sure you haven't missed anything, and then if you still have questions, reach out. All right. I want you guys to stay safe. Continue to find joy in the small things, and I will see you for our next video, our final video. Have a beautiful day, beautiful people, and I will see you soon. Bye.